I always thought my marriage to Sarah was solid, a relationship built on trust and friendship. We were that couple everyone envied, at least that's what I believed. We met in college, bonded over late-night study sessions, and by the time we graduated, we were practically inseparable. Fast forward a few years and we'd settled into suburban life, complete with a small house, two dogs, and all the cliché trappings of a happy marriage. But as anyone in a long-term relationship knows, things can change. I started noticing small things. Sarah was more distracted lately, often scrolling through her phone during dinner or taking suspiciously long work calls. I brushed it aside at first, telling myself she was just busy with work. She had recently taken a new job at a marketing agency, and I figured the stress was getting to her. Then came the subtle changes in her appearance. She started dressing differently, more stylish and frankly, more provocative. I remember one day she left for work wearing this tight red dress that hugged her curves. She looked stunning, but as I watched her walk out the door, I couldn't shake this unsettling feeling in my gut. I told myself I was just being paranoid. One Friday evening, I came home a little later than usual. I was excited to see Sarah because we had plans to watch our favorite show together. As I entered the house, I noticed it felt eerie. The TV was off and the dogs were barking as if they were expecting something. My heart sank as I went into the living room. Sarah wasn't there, but her purse was. There was a text on her phone, a message from a guy named Jake, someone I had never heard of. I felt a wave of nausea as I read the words. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." I couldn't breathe for a moment, the weight of the realization hitting me like a ton of bricks. I needed answers, so I decided to do some digging. I found more messages, and they were explicit plans for intimate meetings, flirting that left no doubt about what was happening between them. I felt sick. When she finally got home, I confronted her right away. I'd like to say I was calm and collected, but I was furious. "Who is Jake?" I asked, my voice shaking. She stood there, her eyes wide with surprise, but then the surprise turned to indignation. "Why are you going through my phone?" she snapped. "Because I found messages between you and him. You're cheating on me, Sarah." I yelled, my heart racing. Her denial was instant, like a reflex. "You're being ridiculous. He's just a coworker and those messages are taken out of context." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her excuses were pathetic, and deep down I knew she was lying. The anger inside me surged, but so did something else, a sinking feeling of betrayal and heartbreak. I had trusted her completely, and she was throwing it all away for some guy. As she continued to spin her web of lies, my world felt like it was collapsing. I wanted to scream and make her feel the pain I was feeling, but instead I stood there, a silent witness to my marriage unraveling. I could almost hear the fractured lines forming between us. It was surreal, as if I were watching a movie, but this was my life, and it was falling apart. After the confrontation, I was left reeling. My mind raced as I tried to process everything. I couldn't eat or sleep, and the emotional turmoil was unbearable. The betrayal cut deep, and I felt lost. A part of me wanted to make it work, to find a way to forgive her, but how could I? I had trusted her, and she had shattered that trust. As the days went on, I found myself drowning in a sea of anger and sadness. I started thinking about my options. Did I want to fight for this marriage? Could I ever look at her the same way again? I decided I needed a plan, but not just any plan. I didn't want to just sit back and let this go unpunished. Sarah had made a fool out of me, and now I was determined to show her that I wasn't the one who would be left in the dust. I wanted her to see how I could rise above this situation, especially with the rising influencer she had fallen for. And that's when the idea hit me. I would use my own social media presence against her, turning the tables in what felt like the only way I could regain my power in this situation. I was about to show Sarah just what it meant to mess with the wrong person. It was time to take control. After that night, I was a man on a mission. I took a step back, evaluated my options, and realized that I had an opportunity here, not just to get back at Sarah, but to reclaim my own identity. The last few years, I had let my life revolve around our relationship, and now it was time to focus on myself. I had always been somewhat active on social media, mostly sharing the occasional photo from our trips or highlighting some mundane moments. But now, I decided to ramp it up. I needed to show the world and, more importantly, Sarah, that I was more than just her husband. I was someone worth recognizing, too. I started by revamping my online presence. I reached out to friends I hadn't spoken to in a while and asked if they wanted to collaborate on content. I began posting workouts, cooking videos, and even some travel vlogs. As I shared snippets of my life, I felt a surge of confidence. I was getting likes and comments, and I didn't even care if it was superficial. For the first time in a while, I was doing something for me. But the real game changer was when I decided to write about my experiences. I had been reading online forums and posts about infidelity, heartbreak, and recovery. I realized there were so many people out there who had gone through similar situations, and sharing my story could resonate with them. It was a form of catharsis, a way to channel my pain into something productive. At first, it was just a few posts about how I was feeling, raw and unfiltered. I described the betrayal, the anger, the confusion, and slowly my audience began to grow. People reached out, sharing their own stories and thanking me for my honesty. I realized I was building a community, a space where vulnerability was embraced, and it empowered me even more. Meanwhile, I was keeping tabs on Sarah. I didn't have to do much sleuthing. She was still tangled up with Jake, posting photos of their adventures on social media. They looked happy, and that stung. But instead of wallowing in jealousy, I used it as fuel. I wanted her to see the contrast between her life now and the life I was creating for myself. I kept my posts light-hearted but laced with subtlety. For every photo of Sarah lounging with Jake, I posted a video of me hiking a beautiful trail or cooking a fancy dinner. I started gaining followers, and soon I was invited to collaborate with a few local brands. The thrill was palpable. People were starting to notice me. As my following grew, so did the intrigue. I began to receive messages from people asking about my story, which further fueled my resolve. I had friends who were supportive, reminding me that I was worth so much more than what Sarah had reduced me to. But I didn't want this to just be about revenge. I wanted it to be a transformation. I began doing things I had always wanted to do but had put off. I signed up for a cooking class, took a weekend trip to the mountains, and even joined a local sports league. Each new experience was a reminder that I was reclaiming my life. And then, after a few months of focus and growth, I decided it was time to directly confront Sarah again. I had kept my distance but felt it was crucial to show her that I was no longer the guy she once knew, someone who would just sit back and take her betrayal without a fight. I invited her to meet up for coffee. I wanted to be civil, at least for this conversation. As I walked into the cafe, I felt a mix of nerves and excitement. I had changed, and I wanted her to see me as someone completely different. When she walked in, I noticed her surprise when she saw me. I had been hitting the gym and styling my hair differently, and I could tell she didn't expect me to look so revitalized. We exchanged pleasantries, and I could feel the tension in the air. "Wow, you look good," she said, and I couldn't help but smirk. "Thanks. Been focusing on myself," I replied. "I've been doing some traveling and a lot of self-improvement. How about you?" She shrugged, but I could see the gears turning in her mind. It was clear she was taken aback by my transformation. I had expected her to downplay it, but she didn't. Instead, she kept asking questions, and I could sense she was fishing for validation. "Been busy with work," she said, avoiding mentioning Jake. I leaned in, my voice steady. "I saw your recent posts with Jake. Looks like you two are having a great time." Her expression shifted, a mix of defensiveness and guilt flashing across her face. "It's not what you think. We're just having fun. It's not serious." "Is that why you cheated on me?" I asked bluntly. "Just for fun." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "I don't need an explanation. I'm done with the lies, Sarah. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." I paused for effect, letting the weight of my words sink in. "I'm moving on, and I hope you find what you're looking for. But you should know, I'm not the same guy you left behind. I'm better, and I intend to keep growing." Her eyes widened as I finished, and I could see her processing everything. I stood up and walked out, leaving her sitting there, stunned. It felt liberating to take control of the narrative, and I didn't look back. As I left the cafe, I felt a rush of exhilaration. I was ready to embrace whatever came next. The revenge I had envisioned was not just about hurting her. It was about building a new life for myself, and I was determined to make it a life worth living. After my confrontation with Sarah, I felt a mix of emotions: satisfaction, relief, and a newfound sense of purpose. I had finally broken free from the chains of her betrayal, and now it was time to focus on building the life I wanted. I was no longer just a husband. I was reclaiming my identity. As the weeks passed, my social media presence continued to grow. I started sharing more about my journey, including my experiences of heartbreak and recovery. I encouraged others to share their struggles and victories, creating a community of support and understanding. It was thrilling to see the comments pouring in, people relating to my story and offering their own tales of resilience. Sarah, on the other hand, was still very much in her bubble with Jake. I'd catch glimpses of their life through her social media: trips to trendy brunch spots, selfies at the beach, and endless posts about their adventures. I could sense she was desperately trying to showcase a perfect life, but I knew better. I could see through the facade, and it only fueled my determination to succeed. One day, I received an unexpected message from a local lifestyle influencer named Mia. She had been following my journey online and wanted to collaborate. I couldn't believe it. Here I was, just a guy trying to rebuild his life, and now I had the chance to work with someone who had a substantial following. It was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. Mia and I met up at a coffee shop to discuss potential ideas. She was warm and engaging, and I found myself enjoying her company more than I expected. We brainstormed content ideas, everything from cooking tutorials to outdoor adventures. The chemistry between us was palpable, and it felt refreshing to connect with someone who appreciated my journey. As we worked together, my follower count began to skyrocket. Our collaboration was a hit, and I soon found myself drowning in opportunities. Brands started reaching out for partnerships, and I felt like I was finally stepping into my own. I was on the verge of becoming a social media influencer myself, something I never thought possible. But as my star began to rise, I couldn't help but think about Sarah. Part of me felt vindicated, knowing she would see my success and realize what she had lost. I wondered if she felt any regret, any remorse for what she had done. Did she ever think about the life we had built together and how easily she had thrown it away? One evening, after a particularly successful day of shooting content with Mia, I decided to post a new update. I shared a video montage of my journey over the past few months, my workouts, cooking, and the new friends I had made along the way. I ended it with a powerful message about self-love, resilience, and the importance of surrounding yourself with positivity. As I hit post, I felt a rush of adrenaline. I was pouring my heart into this, and I knew it would resonate with my followers. The comments flooded in support, encouragement, and admiration. But then I saw it. Sarah had commented, "I'm proud of you. You've come a long way. Keep it up." A wave of mixed emotions crashed over me. On one hand, I was pleased to see her acknowledgement. On the other, I felt irritation. Was she genuinely proud, or was this just an attempt to reach out and reconnect? I decided not to respond, knowing it would only complicate things. A few days later, I received another unexpected message, this time from Jake. He wanted to meet up and clear the air. I felt a rush of anger at the thought of him wanting to discuss anything with me, but curiosity got the better of me. Part of me wanted to confront him, to understand what he saw in Sarah, and to show him just how wrong he was about me. We agreed to meet at a local pub, and I arrived feeling a mix of apprehension and determination. I spotted him at a table in the corner, looking relaxed and confident. As I approached, he stood up and extended his hand. "Hey, thanks for meeting with me," he said, his tone casual. "Let's skip the pleasantries," I replied, sitting down. "Why are you here?" He shifted in his seat, a hint of discomfort creeping into his expression. "I wanted to talk about Sarah. I think you deserve to know the truth about her." I raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" Jake took a deep breath, as if gathering his thoughts. "Look, I know how things went down between you two. Sarah was, well, she wasn't honest with either of us. She still had feelings for you even while we were together. I was taken aback. What, are you serious? She was the one who cheated on me. I know, he said quickly, holding up his hands. But she kept saying things to me, how her marriage was falling apart, how she missed the connection you two had. I thought she was over it, but it sounds like she never truly moved on. I felt a mix of disbelief and anger. So you just went along with it. You're okay being the rebound guy. Jake frowned, frustration evident on his face. Honestly, I thought I could be what she needed, but now I see how naive that was. I didn't realize it until I got to know her better. She was always comparing us. His words hit hard. I felt a pang of sadness at the thought of Sarah still holding onto what we had. It made me question everything again. Was this affair just a way for her to escape? Did she regret her choices? I'm just here to say I'm sorry, Jake continued, shifting uncomfortably. You deserve better, man. I hope you find happiness. I nodded, feeling conflicted. I didn't want to feel sympathy for him, but part of me appreciated his honesty. We parted ways, and I left the pub with a million thoughts swirling in my head. Back at home, I sat in silence, contemplating everything I had learned. The emotional wounds were still fresh, but the prospect of moving on felt more tangible than ever. I resolved to keep using my platform for good, not just to seek revenge or validation, but to inspire others to find their strength. And as I moved closer to that light at the end of the tunnel, I knew I was ready for whatever came next. It was time to fully embrace my new life, and I was determined to make it extraordinary. After my conversation with Jake, I found myself in a whirlwind of emotions. I had confronted the man who had been seeing my wife, but instead of feeling vindicated, I felt a strange sense of clarity. Sarah hadn't just cheated on me. She had also been looking for something she felt was missing in her life. I couldn't help but wonder if I had played a role in her feeling unfulfilled, even though her actions were entirely her responsibility. Despite the complex feelings bubbling inside me, I pushed them aside. I was on a roll with my newfound journey, and nothing could derail my progress. I focused on my growing influence in the social media space. My collaborations with Mia were picking up pace, and we had begun working with several brands that aligned perfectly with my message of self-improvement and resilience. I was finding my voice, and for the first time in a long time, I felt empowered. The more I invested in my content, the more supportive messages I received from my followers. Many shared their stories of betrayal and heartbreak, and I felt a sense of responsibility to be there for them. I started hosting live Q&A sessions where people could share their experiences and seek advice. It was cathartic for all of us, and I could see how my vulnerability was creating a community that thrived on honesty and support. Then, one night, as I was preparing a video about setting goals and maintaining mental health, I received a notification that changed everything. Sarah had tagged me in a post. I clicked on it, my heart racing. She had shared a photo of us from happier times, our wedding day, smiles all around, with the caption, "Sometimes you realize what you had only after it's gone, missing my best friend." A wave of confusion washed over me. Was this her attempt at an apology, or was she simply trying to elicit sympathy? I could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface. Hadn't she already made her choice? Did she think posting this would somehow make everything right? I took a moment to gather my thoughts. I could let my emotions dictate my actions, or I could rise above it and respond in a way that showcased my growth. I decided to share my own thoughts in a video, addressing the complexities of love, loss, and growth. I wanted my followers to understand that while it was okay to miss the good moments, it was crucial to recognize the lessons learned and the importance of moving forward. The video went live, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. People resonated with my message of healing and the importance of self-worth. My followers rallied behind me, reminding me that I was worth so much more than the betrayal I had experienced. I felt a wave of support wash over me, and it reinforced my decision to focus on my journey. As the days passed, I noticed that Sarah's posts became increasingly desperate. She began posting about her self-discovery journey, showcasing her workouts and new hobbies. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. It felt so insincere. Meanwhile, my life continued to flourish. I was getting more opportunities, including a chance to be featured in a local magazine. Mia and I had developed a strong working relationship, and it became clear that our chemistry extended beyond just business. We began to spend more time together outside of work, and I found myself enjoying her company immensely. She was different from Sarah, supportive, encouraging, and genuinely invested in my well-being. I felt a connection forming and it scared me. Was I ready to move on, to open my heart to someone new after everything that had happened? One evening, after a long day of shooting, Mia suggested we celebrate our recent success with dinner. We went to a trendy restaurant downtown and I felt a flutter of excitement. As we talked about our plans for the future, I found myself genuinely laughing and enjoying the moment. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Over dessert, Mia looked at me, her eyes sparkling. "I've really enjoyed working with you. You've inspired me in so many ways," she said, her voice soft. "I think you're an incredible person and I admire your strength." I felt my cheeks flush. "Thank you, Mia. That means a lot to me, especially after everything that's happened." She leaned in closer, her smile inviting. "I know it's been a rough road for you, but I see so much potential in you. You're going to do amazing things." There was a moment of silence as our eyes locked and I could feel the tension in the air. I hesitated, unsure of what to do. I wanted to kiss her, but was I ready for that kind of intimacy again? Could I trust someone after what Sarah had put me through? Before I could decide, my phone buzzed, breaking the moment. It was a message from Sarah and my heart sank. "Can we talk? I need to explain everything." I glanced at Mia, who was studying me with curiosity. "Everything okay?" she asked, concern etched on her face. "Yeah, just my ex," I replied, trying to brush it off. I quickly typed a response, letting her know I was busy and didn't want to talk. I couldn't let Sarah derail the progress I had made. "Sorry about that," I said, trying to shake off the moment. "Let's focus on us." Mia smiled and we resumed our conversation, but my mind kept drifting back to Sarah. Was this just a moment of weakness on her part? Did she truly want to talk, or was she looking for something else? The next few weeks passed and Sarah continued to reach out. I ignored her messages, focusing on my work with Mia and continuing to build my platform. I was moving on and I felt more empowered each day. However, Sarah's persistence was hard to ignore. She started commenting on my posts more frequently, sharing vague but emotional messages that hinted at regret. It made me uneasy, but I reminded myself that I had to stay strong. I was building a life I loved, one that didn't include her drama. Then came the day when I received a call from a mutual friend. They mentioned that Sarah had been talking to them about wanting to reconcile, saying she wanted to come clean about everything. My heart raced. Was this just another ploy to get back into my life, or was she genuinely remorseful? That night, I decided it was time to confront the situation head-on. I had ignored her long enough, and if she truly wanted to talk, it was time to hear her out. I needed to know if there was any sincerity behind her words or if this was just another attempt to manipulate me into feeling guilty. I agreed to meet her at our old favorite coffee shop, a place full of memories. I felt a rush of apprehension as I arrived, unsure of what to expect. Would she be the same Sarah I had known, or had she changed? As I sat at a table, waiting for her to arrive, I could feel my heart beating faster. I was ready for whatever she had to say, but I was determined to stand my ground. I had come too far to let her back into my life without a fight. When Sarah walked into the coffee shop, the atmosphere shifted. I could feel the eyes of the baristas and patrons subtly glancing our way. In that moment, I was struck by how different she looked compared to the last time I had seen her. Her hair was styled differently, and she wore makeup that seemed to emphasize her features. But behind the surface, I could also see traces of vulnerability. "Hey," she said, her voice a bit shaky as she approached my table. "Hey," I replied, trying to keep my tone neutral. I gestured for her to sit, and she did, folding her hands nervously in front of her. "I appreciate you meeting with me," she began, her eyes darting around the cafe. "I know this must be awkward for you." "Awkward is one way to put it," I responded, crossing my arms. I wasn't going to sugarcoat anything. So why are we here? She took a deep breath. I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about everything that happened. I just want to be honest. Honesty is a start, I said, leaning forward, but it's going to take more than that for me to believe you. Sarah nodded, her expression earnest. I know I hurt you and I'm so sorry. I didn't handle things the right way. I was confused and caught up in my own desires. I thought I could find happiness elsewhere without realizing what I was risking. I could feel the anger rising within me, but I pushed it down. You risked our marriage, Sarah. You threw away everything we built together for a fling with someone you barely knew. You can't just say you're sorry and expect everything to go back to normal. I know, she said, tears welling in her eyes, but I have to tell you that I regretted it almost immediately. Jake was nothing compared to what we had. I tried to convince myself it was just a phase, but I kept thinking about you. Is that why you've been commenting on my posts? Because you miss me? I asked, skepticism dripping from my voice. Yes, I've been following your journey. I'm proud of you, you're thriving, and I've realized how much I took you for granted. I scoffed, shaking my head. It feels a bit insincere, don't you think? You're not the one who gets to decide when you miss me, especially after what you did. I know it's too little too late, she admitted, her voice quivering. But I wanted to reach out and be honest. I'm not asking you to forgive me or take me back. I just wanted you to know how sorry I am. Her vulnerability disarmed me momentarily. Part of me wanted to believe her, to give her the benefit of the doubt, but another part of me knew that trust was not so easily rebuilt. What do you expect to happen after this? I asked, trying to maintain my composure. I just wanted a chance to explain myself and hopefully make amends, she said, wiping away a tear. I know I messed up and I understand if you never want to speak to me again, but I'm hoping we can at least have closure. You deserve that. Closure. The word hung in the air like a weight. I had been searching for that very thing since the day I discovered her betrayal. I wanted to scream, to lash out at her for the pain she had caused me, but instead I took a deep breath and tried to approach this conversation with a level head. Closure would mean acknowledging the truth. I replied evenly. The truth is, you hurt me deeply. I'm still processing the betrayal, and honestly, I'm not sure that I want you back in my life at all. I've been making strides toward healing, and I don't know if inviting you back into my life is the right step. I understand, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I just wanted you to know that I've been working on myself too. I'm seeing a therapist and trying to understand why I made those choices. It wasn't just about you. It was about my own insecurities. I listened as she spoke, and while part of me wanted to feel empathy, another part remained guarded. That's great, but I can't be your emotional crutch, Sarah. I've spent enough time dealing with your choices. Now I need to focus on mine. She nodded slowly, seemingly resigned. I get it. I just hope that one day you can forgive me. I can't change the past, but I want to make things right, even if that means walking away from you for good. The sincerity in her voice caught me off guard. Maybe she was beginning to realize the gravity of her actions. Forgiveness takes time, and right now, I'm not ready for that. But I do appreciate you being honest with me. A silence fell between us as we both absorbed the weight of the conversation. I could see that she was genuinely remorseful, but it still didn't erase the pain she had caused. I'll always care about you, even if we're not together, she finally said, her voice breaking. I wish you nothing but the best. Thanks, Sarah, I wish you the best too, but I think it's best if we go our separate ways, I said firmly. I need to keep moving forward. As we stood up to leave, I felt a strange mix of emotions. It was as if a chapter had finally closed. I had the closure I had sought. For so long, walking out of the coffee shop felt different than when I had walked in. I felt lighter, more resolute. Over the next few days, I continued to focus on my work and my growing relationship with Mia. It felt natural, and I was grateful for the support she had provided during this tumultuous time. We spent more evenings together, sometimes working, sometimes just enjoying each other's company. Each moment felt like a reaffirmation of my decision to move on. But then came another shock. One evening, as I was scrolling through my phone, I saw a post from Sarah. It was an announcement that she had ended things with Jake, citing her need to focus on her personal growth. Beneath that, she tagged me. My heart dropped. Thank you for always being a part of my journey, even if it didn't end the way we planned. You taught me so much about love and respect. I'm sorry for everything." The comments flooded in, with people expressing sympathy for her and encouraging her to stay strong. I felt a swell of conflicting emotions. Was this another attempt to manipulate the narrative, or was she genuinely trying to be accountable? I took a moment to collect my thoughts before typing a response. "I wish you the best as you move forward. It's important to learn from our mistakes." I hit send and immediately felt a sense of finality. I had put my feelings out there and there was no going back. As I settled into bed that night, I realized that the journey of healing was ongoing. I had learned so much about myself and what I wanted from life. But now it was time to fully embrace the new chapter ahead, one that was filled with promise, growth, and the potential for happiness. And as I drifted off to sleep, I knew one thing for certain. I was ready to face whatever came next. The days turned into weeks, and I felt a sense of peace settling in as I continued to focus on my life and the new relationships I was building. I had taken the lessons from the pain Sarah caused and transformed them into something powerful. My social media presence was growing exponentially, and I was receiving opportunities I never dreamed I would have. Mia and I were becoming closer, both in our work and personally. She had become a steady source of support, a breath of fresh air in a time of chaos. We were collaborating on a project that aimed to inspire others through stories of resilience and growth, showcasing not just my journey, but also highlighting others who had gone through difficult times. It felt amazing to be part of something bigger than myself. As we worked together, I found myself sharing more of my story with Mia, including the heartbreak and betrayal I had endured with Sarah. She listened intently, offering empathy without judgment. It felt good to talk about everything that had happened, and I could see how this openness was deepening our connection. One evening, as we sat on my couch editing videos, Mia turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, it's incredible to see how far you've come. You've taken something so painful and turned it into a platform for good. That takes strength." "Thanks, Mia. I couldn't have done it without the support of people like you," I said, feeling a warmth spread through me. "You've really helped me stay focused and motivated." She smiled softly, the space between us feeling charged. "I'm really proud of you and I admire your dedication." Caught up in the moment, I leaned in and our lips met for the first time. It was a gentle kiss, but it ignited something powerful between us. I pulled back and looked into her eyes, searching for any uncertainty, but all I saw was warmth and encouragement. "Wow," I said, a smile spreading across my face. "That was nice." She laughed lightly, her cheeks flushing. "It was nice, wasn't it?" Everything felt right in that moment. I had finally moved on from the shadows of my past, and I was ready to embrace what lay ahead. However, as life often does, it threw another curveball my way. One day, while I was out running errands, I bumped into Sarah. I didn't expect to see her, especially in such an unexpected place. She was with a friend, looking as put together as ever. "Hey," she said, her voice unsure but friendly. "Hey," I replied, surprised but calm. "Wow, you look great," she said, her eyes scanning me. "I see you've really been thriving." "Thanks, I've been busy," I replied, trying to keep the conversation light. "I wanted to thank you for your response to my post. It meant a lot," she said, her sincerity evident. "I'm really trying to move forward and do better." "I appreciate that," I said, feeling a mix of emotions. "I hope you find what you're looking for." We exchanged a few more pleasantries, and I realized that I was no longer angry or hurt by her presence. Instead, I felt a sense of closure. I had moved on, and I could genuinely wish her well. As we parted ways, I felt lighter than I had in a long time. I had finally let go of the bitterness that had clung to me for too long. I had learned to forgive, not just her, but also myself for the pain I had endured. With that encounter behind me, I focused on building my life with Mia and continuing my work in the social media space. We launched our project together, and it was met with overwhelming positivity. People connected with the stories we shared, and I felt honored to be a part of their journeys. As the months passed, my following grew, and with it, my confidence. I became an advocate for self-love and resilience, using my platform to uplift others who had faced similar challenges. It became clear that I was destined for more than just recovery. I was meant to inspire change. One evening, as Mia and I sat on the balcony of my apartment watching the sunset, I turned to her and said, "I never thought I could be this happy again." She looked at me, her eyes sparkling. "You deserve every bit of this happiness. You've worked hard for it." I reached for her hand, intertwined our fingers, and smiled. "And I'm grateful for you being by my side through it all." As the sun set on another day, I felt a sense of hope and possibility wash over me. I had gone from betrayal to growth, from pain to purpose. I was stronger than I had ever been, and I was ready to embrace whatever the future held. I had learned that sometimes the hardest challenges lead us to the most beautiful destinations. And in that moment, I knew I was exactly where I was meant to be.